Hey guys, I'm Mustached here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Risen. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. There'll be the second link in the description. Also, consider subscribing if you end up enjoying the review. Alright, now that the shilling is out of the way, let's get into this movie. So, I didn't see any trailers for this, but I did come across it, so I'm guessing this is one of those smaller movies that probably just didn't get that much attention. But I'm here to review it anyways, because, of course, me being a small YouTuber, I understand, and I always want to give a little bit, that notoriety to the smaller movies that come out from time to time too. But, of course, I'm still here to review it objectively speaking, so I'm going to hold it to the as equal amount of standard as I would a bigger movie that, more YouTubers would probably, cover because they want to make that big bucks and they want to review their movies and talk about the big ones, and, it is what it is. Anywho, getting to this movie, it starts off with some old military footage, and we hear this radio announcement of potential alien escapades. As we join the household of four, a husband and a wife and two daughters. After their little prayer, the house starts shaking, and the family of four is slowly knocked out one by one. As the youngest one tries to hide, it is insinuated that the entire family is killed. As we cut to then New York, with our main character Lawrence, or I believe that's her name. But as we are to do, in this movie, apparently the year is 2030, so not too, a decade from now-ish, minus a year, is not looking great, so still pretty rough, all things considered. However, the news is covering this huge explosion that has happened as we are introduced a little bit more to Lawrence, as military ops come into her situation. She's given a partner in crime whose name I didn't catch in the movie, as one of the army guys, Emmerich, updates them, the two of these individuals, as and why they are chosen is for her belief in aliens, and he too, I guess, has a very strong motive in believing, and that is what they believe this to be. So he kind of, as they're traveling, the two of them, he kind of goes on and on about his kids, about how his kids are sort of reversed, about the one that's into the thing is like, oh, I'm gonna do the other thing, and whatever. And the one that's not interested is like, oh, I kind of want to get him interested, so it's like, Anyways, apparently they were looking into Russia as to some opposing news about this sort of situation, I guess is the best way I can put it. Anyway, we also see that this woman who is interviewed is shot briefly after, and as we proceed, the two, Lawrence and our other guy, head over to this autopsy, or sorry, these other two characters, my bad, are doing an autopsy. And as they are doing this, they are doing it on the guy from the father from the beginning. They cut open his body to reveal this black ichor, is the best thing I can describe it as, spills forth from his body, but then proceeds to start healing itself. Uh, the guy, uh, the father, gets up, and he seems to have no blood pressure or any sense of heartbeat or anything, but he seems to be alive, as well as other bodies that they have been collecting from this initial explosion are also getting up. And it's sort of freaking people out, obviously, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They are trying to connect to these people who have come back, seemingly from the dead. They're using family, connections, but it seems to not. These people seem to be in a comatose state, is the word I would use to describe it. Very still, but they apparently will twitch in a direction at some point, and they will then proceed to stare in that direction for the preceding however much time they would be there. So anyways, so that's all going down. While this is all going down, Lawrence is a little bit put on edge as something similar happened in 2013, at least according to this movie, as the government wants to potentially torch them and just get rid of them as soon as possible. So they're trying to debate whether or not what they should potentially do. Meanwhile, as she's driving off to another location, she recalls her issues with her dad, being unable to connect. We see her as a girl with these flashbacks, her losing her mom and have not had some emotional connection, as she puts it. So anyways, as they notice that at this point that bodies of these individuals are all facing north in particular, they look at the location that is to the north and they locate an area called Badger. So they decide that they're going to bring one of the infected, the initial father, who they got moving initially, to bring him over with them. So they take him out and they move him to the location where they see a new form thing that wasn't there before, because this is where this initial attack bomb explosion took place in. So as they near this growth of the thing you see in the background, that tall, lanky, plant-like object, the man begins to move and even speak to them. Saying that, this is our situation, I'm not from here, obviously, etc., etc. So something is talking through this individual. So we see that Lawrence is called over. She has a little bit more moments with her father. And after the fact, after she makes her way here to this location, she speaks with this individual. And they, apparently, this man talks about how they were given coordinates by someone from Earth to come here. And she seems pretty shocked. So she's kind of going through a back and forth. We see more moments with her father as she's discussing through this process. And as they're talking, the other individuals who are there, the military or some other scientist, are trying to get in on the plant. And the creature's eyes turn black. And as consequence as moving in on that, he makes all the people there suffer and kill themselves or each other, so he pretty much takes control of them. So a big gun out begins, and they all kill each other. They try sending in jets from afar, but when they fire from the jets, a huge force field appears. It seems that nothing is getting through to this thing. And as she's taking a little brief break from this, because Lauren survives the incursion that ensues, she goes and she hears about how there's a news update about how people are starting to hear odd noises in the distance. And we see other people starting to check it out. Meanwhile, at the lab, we see the bodies of the people starting to get burned. They're like, nope, we're not, nope, no more of that. So anyways, we see a woman run over with her dog on the news. And we recall from Lawrence as she begins to narrate what a fine ending this would be, because a lot of people are talking about how this is going to be the end of the world, one of those movies. And she seems to be fine with it at this point in time. So she has a flashback after her little narration, where she's with her father and they move over to Area 51, where she overhears some scientist as a young girl and moves in on this pod when she's alone. She touches it and apparently gets some sort of vision and changes for some reason. So she gains an ability to write in other languages, and she's considered an alien herself. And she was the one who gave the coordinates to the other aliens, apparently, as the Supernova 94. So she seems to be more of a hybrid of sorts between human and alien, as when she touched it, that somehow happened. Meanwhile, the noises we heard on the news, we see what that noise came from. These huge egg-like shaped objects are all over the world, and they proceed to start out sending out these black fumes of smoke, black smoke that just seem to wipe out the rest of humanity, or what's left of it from, from whatever the population is. And she proceeds to expand her wings, literal wings, as she seems to transform into something or other as the movie comes to its end. And that's sort of the events that take place. Now, one of the things I noticed about this movie is that while I was describing the events just as they were, one thing I didn't note in my notes, but I do remember, is that there were a lot of long pauses in the movie. They were comprised of really long poses of people just sort of standing or staring or, blankly sort of thinking, I guess is the best way I can put it. And that does come at a cost, unfortunately. And this movie does have a slower pace, and the staring and the standing does seem to precede a lot of that pacing issue. And one thing is, it's really hard to gauge. It's something that's really hard to be objective about, but is sort of this question about, how much time do you offer to a silent moment? And I think this is very important. So, as I proceed to give this movie my grade, which, I think there's some interesting stuff here. It does take a weird shift at the end there, but I think there's some interesting stuff here, so I'd probably give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. a bit more issues that I would like to go over, including the pacing. And one thing is that, as I was mentioning, the silent moments. So the best example I can give, you know, say you're doing an action movie. So in an action movie, when you're creating a silent moment within that context, you usually go through a big action set piece, like defeating a whole army or something of that regard. Then, after that intense fighting scene, you would take that silent moment, and that silent moment is for the hero or heroine or whoever, and as well as a meta perspective, the audience to also catch a breather. It allows them to get a sigh of relief, be like, all that adrenaline is, is being, connected to you in a way. So it's a way for you to get that sigh of relief. This is, and I can use another example within the context of horror, because this is, again, one that's really obvious, where you have something give a big spook, and you may even have a whole sequence of something scary happening, and then you have a silent moment where the character can recover from that moment. They can, catch their breath, recuperate, so on and so forth. And again, that allows the audience to, with the characters, to regain that, so that you can have another dip into action or horror. So those are the two examples that I immediately dive to for that example. So in this movie, there are a lot of long pauses, and I don't think the rise to some of them are warranted. Meaning that the silent moments just sort of seem to be there, taking up space more often than not. There doesn't seem to be, it's hard. It becomes harder to gauge what characters are thinking within a silent moment when there was nothing prior to that thing happening, that silent moment happening, for us to be like, okay, so this is what they're recovering from, or this is what they're going through. It's just characters having a silent moment. And that seems to be a recurring issue within the movie, is that there are quite a few of these that are sprinkled throughout the movie, again, and they don't seem to have any context to being why the characters would just not say anything or pretty much do anything. And again, it seems like unnecessary padding almost. So that is probably the biggest issue with this movie in terms of, again, pacing. But outside of that, I think in terms of the whole alien aspect, this is a bit of a harder thing to coordinate, because I think that they were trying to go for a surprise reveal, and through that lens, there's something about the character that and maybe this is a bit subjective for me to say, but I just personally didn't find the character that interesting. And maybe some of that comes from the pausing and that objective sense, but again, I'm pulling out a subjective feeling from that. So yeah, there is that. So it yeah, it's a bit interesting to try to put into a category of where I would put this character. And I think one of the things that is a cause of this is that since it is the reveal of it is also contained her backstory, where she was when she was a child, what kind of person she was rather than who she is currently. And I think that there are ways to hint at something like this without, without revealing it. I think there are things you can do rather than these awkward silences that the character has, like these little maybe tics or something that just seems a little bit off, perhaps, and maybe you would have that inkling of like, oh, they just have something else, like they may have a condition or something. Um, they might say something that just seems a little out of place, perhaps. Something, I don't know. Those are just some uh, things I can think of. And I'm not saying that they'll always be good, I'm just trying to think of, like, potential ideas because I try to do this with my more recent reviews. Outside of just being objective, I'm also trying to say, if you watch my reviews to the end, I'm also looking forward to people who watch this, if they want to make their own stories and their own movies and their own whatever, for them to learn something or, think of these things themselves. So again, 5 out of 10, halfway decent movie, I suppose. And that is my review of Risen. And if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord. The second will head you over to my Patreon. Also, consider subscribing. Again, if you ended up enjoying this review. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.